But no, no, I highly enjoy that in any hobby at all.
Oh
Um,
yeah. It's just a
it's
very nice luxury to have. It's very freeing.
oh yeah. I mean, I just imagine all the crazy things you can do with a pair of like Wing Zero wings from Endless Waltz. So, um,
I could have slapped them on that tall geese if I had them.
that's the thing is like that's what I so when I was coming, I know that you're familiar with like everything Gundam, right? And
Just Universal Century.
okay, well that's the thing is even saying like you're just familiar with what you see is like far and beyond what I'm familiar with,
Yeah,
because
true, true.
here's I'll tell you what I've honestly watched. Like the thing I sent you on Facebook is like yes, I know of that Gundam series. I didn't watch that
Hmm.
Gundam series.
I didn't either. Don't feel bad.
Okay.
Do not
But
feel bad at
it's
all.
like when I was coming up, well, when we were growing up, like Gundam Wing was like the first thing that we got to see because that was Toonami,
That was the
right?
jam. Hmm.
And I loved Gundam Wing. Like seeing
Same
Gundams like
here.
Heavy Arms and seeing Gundams like I forget fucking what's the black
I
one?
actually have a heavy arms. Death Scythe?
Death Scythe, that's what it is.
Yes.
So seeing things like Death Scythe, seeing things like Wing Zero, I had a whole like I got it at Toys R Us actually. So my mom took me to Toys R Us one time, and it was this
The action
big.
figures?
Well, yeah. So what I had was a big figure of the OG Wing
Uh-huh.
Zero, and you
Yeah.
could transform it into the jet version too, right? And I'm
Oh.
so mad that that figure is gone now.
Okay.
I don't know where it is. I'm so mad it's gone. But that
Man, I
was
I didn't know that was a thing.
yeah.
That's
So
dope.
and I did have
Hmm.
to build parts of it too. So it was like a
Uh-huh.
facsimile to Gunpla at the time, where like I had to put together the Buster Cannon and all that stuff.
Nice.
And I loved it.
That's pretty cool, actually,
Yeah,
man.
I loved it. So, and I mean, just having something that did that because I was always into Transformers toys as a kid. Like I had a ton of Beast
Oh
Wars
yeah.
toys, but
Same here. That's
doing it
those
with the
easy times.
Gundam was great. But then they went and made Gundam Wing too fancy to turn into a jet anymore.
Right. It was just like no point at the after a while. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we have these angel wings now. Turn into
Well,
jets.
it
Nah, that's
was.
fine.
I know that there's been like there was some kind of dispute going on between Gundam and like the Macross and Robotech series for a while. They were kind of
Yeah, I
claiming
remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was like some big IP beef between them. Like, hey, we came up with
That was
that first. You can't do that. And they're like, guys, that's
oh
mechs. Like, you can't tell us that we can't draw robots. Like, come on.
exactly. The
So,
mech field is a very open lane. Mind your business.
oh, I know. The thing is like mechs hold a special place in my heart because not only am I
Same
somewhat a
here.
fan of
Yeah.
Gundam, I'm a big fan of the Armored Core series. Um, and I've been playing
Yes.
I recently just played Armor Core 6 again because there's actually 3 different playthroughs to go through in that game. Um,
Oh, I assumed it was only one. Damn.
no, so there's 3 different endings and 3 different playthroughs, and I just completed the third ending a little while ago. Um,
Hmm.
but I always appreciated Armor Core's ability, FromSoft's ability, really, to blend both
Yes.
Western and Eastern mech influences into like one unique style for them. So every part, and that's the interesting thing. So a lot of designers who worked on Gundam concept art also worked
Hmm.
on Armored Core concept art. So
Correct. Yeah.
yeah,
You can see that. It's
there's like an entire frame in Armored Core 6. And you can use different you can mix and match parts of frames, so you're not stuck with one. But there's an entire frame in
yes.
Armored Core 6 that you don't unlock until like your new game plus run through.
Oh.
That was actually developed by a Gundam concept artist. Um, and so it looks a little bit different than everything else. It still fits within like the Armored Core universe, but it looks like something that's experimental and prototyped.
That's pretty. I'm gonna have to look for that actually.
Yeah, so it's just
It's like
called the
my roommate was playing Armor Core 6. Was like,
yeah, yeah,
haven't got into it myself. You know.
yeah.
Ah,
I mean, I'll be honest. Like the OG games, extremely difficult to play.
yeah.
The control scheme is absolutely wild.
Couldn't get into them because they were so hard. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
When I tell
I
you that
was
you have to
out backseat on
use
that one.
when I tell you that you have to use R1 and R2 to aim up and down, like you understand immediately like why that's a nightmare. um,
No,
um,
thank you. I'm
yeah.
already over that one. Nope.
And this is the crazy thing. So by the time Armored Core 2 came out, it came out on PS2, so you already had the DualShock controller, right? Armored Core up
Okay. Yeah.
until
Yeah. I
we
remember.
reached Armored Core, I think it was not until we reached Armored Core 4 did they start using dual analog sticks as controls. And by that time, Armored Core had made his way all the way to the 360, so...
Yeah, it's like, we already beat you to the punch.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Like, come on.
It's just, they stuck with what they stuck with, and From Software is kind of known for that. They don't really go too far outside the box. Like, everyone thought Demon Souls was like a revolution for From Software. That just comes from a lot of the older games they made.
Pretty much. That was Demon Souls, actually. That was, what, their first game like that, I guess?
Yeah.
Was it?
I mean, it was their
Yeah,
first...
yeah.
It was technically their first action RPG because they had made, like, other
Yes.
first-person RPGs in the style of, like, say, an Elder Scrolls game. They were just...
Right,
they
yeah.
shared that, like, super difficulty, no tutorial style that Demon Souls and Dark Souls has.
The
And that's-
time in life I've burned away on Dark Souls.
Oh, I know.
Swear.
When I
Oh,
had... There was a time a year ago, I don't know if you remember this, like, years and years ago, so I had actually rented a copy of Dark Souls 2 from GameFly. And I couldn't get...
I probably remember the conversation.
Yeah, so I couldn't get past the Capra Demon, so you jumped on, and we synced up for co-op, and then you beat the Capra Demon for me because you were already OP anyway, right? But then I thought back to that moment, I'm like, how is anybody supposed to know how to beat this on their first go? Because it's faster than every other boss you fought beforehand. Like, it's just...
you don't.
There's two dogs... You're stuck in this very tiny room. There's two dogs that can bleed you, and then you have
no
this
protection against any of that.
Yeah, you have this boss that's just faster than every other boss you fought before this, and you fought 3 bosses before this time, right?
Exactly, and they were all chunky, fat boys. So it's come on, man. Like, you're changing the dynamic up. I have to adapt so quickly. I didn't expect this.
I mean, the hardest one out of them is like the armored boar, just because you have to learn how to time dodge rolls. So.
Correct. Yeah, unless you're a madman and want a partial parry, but that's.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not partially parrying like a bus-sized boar coming at me.
Exactly. No, I want my life bar intact as much as possible, please. No, thank you. No.
Yes. So anyway, to actually like get back on topic here, I know we go down rabbit holes.
As I digress.
This is always our streaming content. We go on so many tangents.
It's blue. Hey, it's natural. So what? We're having fun.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about this. Like I understand that you're kind of a fan of Gundam. You're into the... I keep bringing that up on the wrong monitor, so it's gonna look messy. Let me just move this over real quick if I can.
It's on the table. I'm not.
There we
go.
go.
Get that.
Okay, so I know that you've been a fan of Gundam. I know that you've been a fan of Gunpla. So, well, let's ask the nonsense question first. Out of all the Gundam series that you've watched, what would you consider your favorite Gundam series?
Gross. How could you? No, not even. 00. Honestly, after I watched it, the perspective was very nice, even though it was just a better written version of Wing at the end of the day.
Okay.
Oh yeah, but 0 was amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean,
Gundam Unicorn's a very, very close second.
Okay. So I haven't watched 00 or Unicorn, right? So my history with Gundam has been literally Gundam Wing, some of SD, and then all of Witch from Mercury.
Witch from Mercury was amazing.
Yes. So, and
here's
the thing. Like, I like
Gundam. That's a great place to start.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like Ariel especially. Like, I like the art style of the other mechs in that. But I'll tell you what honestly drew me to that is it's just space lesbians, dude. Like, that's the only reason I like Witch from Mercury. Like, just seeing 2 cute space lesbians having like a will they won't they relationship is amazing.
I was there for the war crimes, if I'm being absolutely honest with you.
I mean, that's the draw of like every Gundam, though, right? It's the Geneva suggestion
like,
when it comes to
war
Gundam.
is bad. Exactly, the checklist. You know?
Yeah, it's what you said. Is like the Geneva Convention for Gundam is a checklist. Like, they just want to get.
You gotta check all those boxes.
Yes, they just want to make sure they're committing every war crime by the end of the fight.
Exactly.
I mean, what is it that like Hiro Yui does before he gets into Wing Zero? Like he blows up like an entire section of whatever fucking city he's in, to
Yeah,
cause
and
a
blows himself up after, probably,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
causes he like causes a whole distraction that probably costs like a couple
Yeah.
people's lives to just steal Wing Zero.
You know what the stupid reality of Wing when you look back at it as an adult?
Yeah,
We were cheering the terrorists on.
I mean that's true. And so the thing is like I don't want to really get into politics here, but as I've evolved
Oh,
my
not even.
political,
No, it's just it's
yes,
just like, damn,
as I've
the naivety of youth.
oh yes. Well, as I kind of like evolved in my political journey throughout life,
Yeah.
I kind of learned like why certain people do that kind of thing and why they think it's necessary. And so for someone like the
Hmm.
Gundam pilots and Wing is like they were so attached to their individual convictions that they often just ended up fighting each other most of the time.
Precisely, which was very unfortunate because I'm like, guys, essentially, all of you are the only like group you got. So I mean,
Yeah,
yes, differences, perspectives, but at the end of the day,
I get it.
got a job to do.
But like
Yeah, but whatever.
when
Writing is writing.
well, like when Troa switched sides in Endless Waltz, like that was always going to be a conflict,
Yeah.
right? Because he
Oh yeah, definitely.
like their whole series of mechs is based on his heavy arms. So like
Hmm?
and then he gets an upgraded heavy arms. Everyone gets an upgraded Gundam in Endless Waltz, but he gets an upgraded heavy arms, and you're like, how could they put more guns on a mech?
Let's show you how.
Yes, that's his whole thing. Like when I
You want to see 30 guns on a piece of plastic? Sure.
absolutely, but no, I'll just say it outright. Like heavy arms is my favorite Gundam of all time, because of the absolute
I can't
ridiculousness
blame
of it.
you.
Well, it's just the
Daka daka daka.
it's that, and it's not only Daka Daka Daka. Like you see the four Gatling guns, and you're like, okay, we know what this is about, right? You see like the missile
Hmm.
pods on the legs and the shoulders, and you're like, okay, that's normal. What you don't expect is more missile pods in the chest, more missile pods in the
Yeah.
thighs,
Yeah. The
right?
back. There's probably two
Yes.
more guns back there, you know?
And then
Oh
for him
man,
to
it's just
do,
like, no, I'm a big ass arsenal, you know.
for him to do like fucking acrobatic flips with canonically the heaviest weapons on a Gundam,
Yes.
is insane,
Yes.
right? Meanwhile, you got Gundam Wing over here like, oh, well, I've got literally one trick.
And make things disappear from the landscape. And make
Yeah,
things very flat.
but, you know, when you have something called the Buster Cannon, like, that's all you do.
Oh yeah, what do you expect? Exactly. Like
No,
the weapons like in Gundam are just the names
yes.
alone are ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. And I love the villain from Endless Waltz as well, because it's literally just a child LARPing
Yes.
as like, a military expert.
That's exactly what she
Because
was
she's
too.
been brainwashed so thoroughly that she, like, believes she can do real shit, and the Gundam pilots kind of just show up like, nah, you don't really know.
Nah, let me show you something real quick. let me show you something.
Because one of the most iconic scenes from that movie is like or yeah, so he's just blasting through like her bunker levels.
The bunker?
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
she's like, it'll hold, and they're like, he's at level 7 now, and she's like, what the fuck?
Oh,
It's like Buster
eventually blows himself up.
Cannon. Like, what don't you understand
The
about
coldest
that?
thing though, it was the line I believe he said. I think she told him to like try his best and he simply said affirmative and just
Oh yeah,
I was like, oh,
it's like Hiro Yui is probably the
yeah.
most autistic character in all of Gundam. So, in
You watch Blood of Orphans? No, he's not.
okay,
No, he's
well,
not.
I guess
You
so.
watched Iron Blooded Orphans.
I guess so. What Hiro Yui really reminds me of is like edgy Sosuke from Full Metal Panic,
I'll agree with
because
that. Yes.
yes,
Full Metal
because
Panic.
yes,
I forget.
because
Yes. Don't get me started on Full Metal Panic, man.
well,
You know how I feel about that one
oh
too.
yes, well, I'm a big fan of both. So Full Metal Panic and Famofu, I love them
Damn.
to death. Um,
Yes. Mofu
and
was a very nice change of pace.
yeah, and when I say that, like, Sosuke is just that, like, locked in military dude, so he doesn't understand
Yep.
anything else but that. And I remember there's a
Mm-hmm.
whole scene, I think it's from Fumofu, where this girl from school sends him a love letter in his little shoebox at school, and he
Did he
can't.
think it was a trap or something?
Yeah, so he thinks it's a coded trap message, like challenging him.
Yeah.
And so he gets in a full fucking ghillie suit and hides in a
Yep.
bush all night at the meeting spot, and she's just left there waiting for hours for him to show up. And she's like so
He was just sitting there.
disheartened until Kaname shows up, is like, hey, what you doing? She's like, I'm waiting for Sosuke. And then she knows he's hiding in that bush because she knows exactly how he is, and just completely chews into him.
Just walked over and just got into it.
But that's how Hero is in Gundam Wing, because it's like when someone challenges him, he doesn't take it like, oh, someone's challenging my ego. He's like, someone doesn't know that, like, I'm just going to do it. So
yeah, exactly. They obviously want the smoke.
Yes.
Okay.
His answer to most things is just literally affirmative, because he's like, I'm not going to give you an explanation. You said do it, so now I'm going to do it.
Easy. Gotcha. Will do.
Like, if you tell the man, if you catch the guy outside, you tell him to run hands, he's like, okay. He's not asking you why.
I've been waiting all day, actually. Thank you very much. I needed this.
He's not asking you why.
Yes.
No, but Iron-Blooded Orphans,
Oh, man.
yes, that does have definitely one of the most autistic Gundam pilots I've ever seen.
That poor boy.
Yes. And then, by the time we get to Witch from Mercury, it's a very... Witch from Mercury threw a lot of people for a loop, because it was a dichotomy between, like, a very innocent pilot and then what she ends up doing. And
I loved it.
And just not understanding...
That curveball was amazing.
Yeah, not understanding what she did and how it affected other people. Like, you turned a man into, like, a tomato. Like, rather tomato paste. And she just didn't understand in that moment, like, what she did. Like, you didn't just, like, end a guy's life, you, like, deleted him. Like...
Yes, he was erased from existence, literally. Oh, here's a button. I mean, essentially, yes, I'm saving my wife, haha.
Yes.
But, ma'am,
and then
you realize you just killed a man.
Yeah. And then it just gets into strange territory with the whole, like, oh, the Gundam is actually, like, a child clone of me, or I'm a clone of it, and...
Yeah, that was pretty, I liked that approach.
It
very
was
different.
It was very much like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep kind of stuff.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. I keep forgetting this man's name, but the director of Witch from Mercury, I hope I remember the movie. I want to say he also directed, I know he directed, was it Eureka 7? Possibly?
I can't remember.
And I believe, I'd have to look it up again another time, but I want to say Universal Princess Utenia, if that's the name of it.
Yeah, Universal Princess Utena. Yeah, Tomoki Kyoto.
Yes, Utena, yeah. Yes. The stories are just side by side the same.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean...
I knew what I was getting into, you know?
Universal Princess Utena is literally just Yuri content.
Pretty much.
So that explains the space lesbians. And Eureka 7, like, that just explains the whole design of Gundam Ariel in the first place.
They all come together.
Yeah. So...
Yeah.
That's great. And the other iconic scene is just Choo-Choo completely knocking somebody the fuck out. So...
That was my favorite scene in that entire anime. I don't care. Like, that was fantastic.
And she gave her no chance to retaliate. She just ran her fade on sight.
You knew it was bad because the quality in the animation dropped as she was slumped over.
I think that was intentional to just, like, censor the amount of damage she actually did, because she just... Like, this was the Friday you got knocked the fuck out moment. Like...
Yes.
Because there was no discussion. It's just Choo-Choo coming out up the stairs, running a girl's fade, like... And when I saw that scene, I was like... I didn't know people could punch other people in Gundam. I thought that was just left for the robots.
No, not at all. Like, have you seen what Char's counterattack? Amuro was beating Char's face in.
I'm sure. Like, I've seen humans fight other people in Gundam before, but it was always like an actual fight. This wasn't a scrap.
Yeah.
This was Choo-Choo just knocking somebody the whole fuck out.
Oh, man, like...
And then her friend tries to jump in, and everyone was like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like...
You just want to be slept like your friend over here, obviously. Like, come on here. What's up?
Like, they went from ordering one t-shirt to two real fast, but...
Seriously, but Choo Choo,
Yes.
best character. I'm honestly glad they did not kill her because I would have probably stopped watching.
Oh yeah. No, Choo Choo was great. The whole fucking like Earth people were great. Um,
They had every reason to be mad
oh yeah.
at the end of the day,
Well,
but
it's
as it goes,
same old
actions
Gundam
going the other way.
storyline. Corporations fuck everything up, so
Yep,
let's unfuck it.
pretty much take that shit back. Grr.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
but prices
prices, yeah. So
kind of
absolutely,
diverted from
yeah.
yeah.
We did divert from that, but yes. So take us through like the price. Like if we could do it like average price per grade, what would you think that would be?
That actually doesn't matter.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you can get a high grade as well. High grades, I should say that doesn't matter. You can get a high grade as low as $12 depending on where you get it, like from Target, or
Mm-hmm.
if it's like a very popular recasted set or a remolded set,
Okay.
and then you can get them as high as uh, $80, 100, depending.
Okay. So high grade has a
Yeah, but
large range in pricing.
yes,
Okay.
your master grades, on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
oof, $80, $60, $70,
Mm-hmm.
and up.
Okay.
Yeah, the master grade unicorn. I think the oh great good grief. It's like an FX kit.
Mm-hmm.
The entire thing's blue instead of red. It has a bunch of like weapons. I believe it's the full armor set.
Okay.
$600 and some change.
Gotcha.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's new gaming console prices.
Definitely, but I love this. I love to see them like completed and put together, especially the ones with the whole light setup and everything. The automated ones, more or less.
Okay.
Like, yeah, they get that serious. They have the, I want to say the life size ones that are pretty
Mm-hmm.
much slightly below your, I want to say elbow.
Gotcha.
Those are just a, you have to realize, yes, they're that big, and yes, someone actually put that entire thing together.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, how many pieces is that? About close to 1 million. Let's just throw a number in the air, you know? But I love it. Love to see it.
Yeah.
But what else we got here? Honestly, hmm,
Well, if you go,
perfect grades.
yeah,
Hmm.
perfect grades, and I imagine those get pretty pricey.
That actually depends on the kid itself, like what anime and series it's from. But most of the time, those will run you 50 flat.
Mm.
But the, I can't even say that actually. I want to say the Zeta Gundam, the perfect grade of that was a little bit that may have
Mm-hmm.
been 70,
Yeah.
man. But it just really boils down to quality and what series they come from and how popular the series is at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because like Transformers, Gundam
Mm-hmm.
is just to sell toys.
Okay. Yeah. So I did
Yeah.
find this blog post from a while ago. Um,
Mhm.
that at the time they were ranking the 10 most expensive Gundam model kits in the world.
Oh, I
Um,
love this one.
so like just started. I don't want to go through the entire list, but I'll give you a range here. So just starting at number 10 is a 1/100 scale turn A gold plated um turn oh yes, so it's turn A Gundam gold plated version at a 1/100 scale. That clocks in at 520 US dollars, right?
Sounds about right. Is it on P Bandai?
I really don't know.
I
This
don't even. I'm joking.
yeah, so this kit was released back in 2007.
Okay.
Um, if we're going
Oh,
up
that's
from
cool.
there, a lot of these are RX 78-2s. Like a lot of the most
Sounds about
expensive are
right.
specifically that Gundam. Um,
That's absolutely like correct. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a full color.
Granddad is the most popular.
Yeah, so there's a full color metal plated version that's 160 to scale of RX 78-2 that would have dropped for 750 USD in 2000. Right?
Yeah.
But then we
I
get
feel
on
like I've
the
seen it.
Then we get on
before
the
that.
absolute ridiculous end. Now we're gonna
Yep.
play. We're gonna kind of play a game of prices right here, right?
Oh no.
So I just want you to guess what range. We'll just do like a higher and lower thing. So I'm gonna name two of these kits,
Okay.
and I just want you to tell me which one you think is higher. So the
Okay.
first kit is a 1/60th scale of Char's Custom Zaku 2, a red metal version of that. Right?
Ah, full mechanics. Hmm. Okay.
Yes. The second one is a 1/60th scale RX-78 2 Gundam gold plated version. So which of those two do you think is more expensive?
We want to say the gold-plated one, honestly, but at the same, no, I'm not even going to say at the same time.
Okay.
Yes, the other kit is completely metal and it's nice and heavy, but at the
Hmm.
same time, depending if that's real gold or not, that's the only reason as I say.
Okay. Well, you are correct.
Yeah.
The RX-78 2 is more expensive by a wide margin. So the red
Oh
metal
no.
Zaku is around 3,300 US dollars, right? The
Okay.
RX-78 2 is
Uh,
around 9,000 US dollars in 2002.
I'm looking for an empty box lid to throw in the air right now, but that's stupid. What?
Yeah,
I get it, but
so
no.
if we're like adjusting for inflation from say 2002 to today, let's see if Google will give me this calculation.
Ten
Um,
thousand dollars.
let's see. So we'll say we'll put in. Okay, there's a calculator. So let's say 2000 in 2024. So today the Zaku would be over $3,600, right? So that's like a $300 difference.
Yep. Good grief.
And the RX-78 2 would be around
Dude.
$16,434. That's like a used car.
That.
That's like a really fancy, like top of the line motorcycle or a used car.
Oh, that,
That's like a cheap new car.
it is a cheap new car.
Like, I want
Ew.
you to imagine how deep would you have to be into this hobby to spend over $16,000 on a model kit?
I don't know. Like that's a life investment right there.
Yes.
Somebody must be paying you to construct it in the first place. That's just my opinion. Like that's my only thought on that one. Like,
I just know that if I spent $16,000 on a
yeah.
single like 40K model, in I'm saying like even if I just put a base coat on that model, I should be winning every golden demon on principle at that point.
For free. Yes,
Yeah.
without hesitation or question.
Like
That's wild.
I just submit the model with literally one color on it and win a golden demon. That should be that should just be it.
Pack it up, guys. I'm done. We won. I won. Let's go.
But
That's why. That's why I
yes,
stay to my high grades and my what is it? Unpopular master grades. No,
yeah.
thank you.
Well, I mean, as you can see, there's a wide range of pricing all across the range, which is actually kind of a
Yes.
good thing because that means people have an entry point, right?
Oh
Is
yeah, that's the pretty good thing about it too.
yes,
It's how much do I want to invest? How much time do I want to spend? This, that, and the third, you know.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's as easy on your pockets as you allow it to.
oh yeah. Well, then those
Just like
grades,
everything.
those grades also scale in like finished quality of your model too, right? So you're talking like when
Hmm.
you actually get into that perfect grade, you're getting what the modelers think is as close to screen accurate as possible.
Yes.
And
And
in
don't and the articulation itself,
oh
that's
yeah,
definitely what you're paying for as well.
oh yeah, I know that
Like
the
it's oof.
posing it's less the modeling and more the posing that makes up what a lot of people like about Gundam models. Um,
Yeah, pretty much. The dioramas just get crazy as well.
yeah,
Like I've seen complete you can tell a story with these things, honestly, just by pictures. Like
yeah. I mean,
just like with 40K too. That's what I like about 40K with as far as the models is when people get very serious with it.
yeah.
Like
No, it's a small part of our hobby, but people do dioramas of 40K models. I've thought about doing one myself.
Hmm.
Because it's a way of like, say there's
Definitely
like
do
a,
that. Yeah.
well, it's a way of saying like it's fun to play on tabletop. People do recreate battles from lore on tabletop all the time. There's even a narrative version of 40K you can play to continue like an entire campaign. Um,
Gotcha.
but then a lot of
Hmm.
people also who don't necessarily enjoy the tabletop game because it can get convoluted. Like the 10th edition just released late last year. um,
And jeez.
yeah, so I mean, I'll put it this way: like D&D now has less editions than 40K does.
What? I'm surprised about that actually.
Yeah, I think D&D
Man,
is up to 9th edition, where 40K is now up to 10th. And
it went
Pathfinder
behind. I
has,
mean, they're not that far behind them.
yeah, so Pathfinder still has few editions still.
Okay.
But in 40K, people make dioramas to recreate some battles from lore that they like as well. Um,
Yep. Yep.
and that can go anywhere from just standard 40K models all the way up to Battlefleet Gothic if they can still find kits of
Yeah.
that. Um,
Those are very old, man.
well, they're very old because I'll put it this way: like from my experience in tabletop gaming, not a lot of people like playing fleet-based games. There's like a whole
Hmm.
Star Wars fleet-based game, and a lot less people prefer that to
I believe
just
it.
the like army-based Star Wars game or the heroes-based Star Wars game,
Okay.
um, which is a click system like Hero Clicks is.
Oh,
So,
a
and
bad way to go about it.
yeah, click systems are interesting because it actually lets you keep track of stats on individual models.
Very
Um,
nice.
the stats on 40K are all kept on data sheets, so it's not that important when you're dealing with like single individual units. But when you're dealing with something like a vehicle that downgrades over time as it takes more damage, that can get a little bit annoying. And
Hmm.
that's why we all come up with data cards now.
Makes it simpler.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but
Nice.
anyway, let's talk about this. So, if I were a beginner, which I am to the Gunpla hobby, by the way, like I don't have a
Uh-huh.
single kit yet. Let's say that an absolute beginner, like I'm gonna go on two different levels with this. But let's start with this. Like
Okay.
an absolute beginner has never touched a modeling kit in their life, right?
Uh-huh.
And they want to get into Gunpla. Where do you think they should start?
As your first kit, like a first kit?
Well, you can recommend a first
Y-
specific kit. You can recommend a first couple of kits. You know, whatever
Yeah.
you want. Mm.
Honestly, the RX, as obvious as the answer is, it's straightforward, especially the high grade. It's not very complicated. It's the pieces are very easy to work with.
Okay.
But you want to step above that just to say, ooh, here's some nice shapes and edges. Get a Zaku.
Okay. So,
I'm a Zaku supremacy all day, but
well, no,
just
that's
you
kind of
know,
where I am. Like, I would consider myself at this point like an intermediate level modeler because I put
oh
together.
yeah, dude. You personally, no, I would throw you something with some bulk and edges
Okay,
with a bunch of parts. Honestly,
gotcha,
just because it would be a very fun challenge for you.
gotcha. I think I could jump in somewhere
Yeah.
like a Zaka or a Tall Geese model. Because
What grade do you think of a tall goose? That's the real question.
I would probably just stick in master grade because if it takes me too long to build, I
The
will
big
eventually
boy.
just stop. um,
Yeah, yeah. Let me tell
so
you something about this. The first master grade I actually tackled. That thing took me about 4 days.
gotcha. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised. Um,
decals and all. But the crazy thing is, I pulled maybe 8 hours on it. My essentially tackling it in my first day. But I
yeah,
just burned out on one day. Had to take a break and just tackled it in a few other days.
I
Well, three
imagine
other days
that.
rather.
Like we don't ever want our hobbies to feel like work. So
Yes.
so I'm trying to. I've taken a long hiatus from painting anything 40K because eventually
Same here. I can't touch it.
I
I can't
got
touch a kit right now.
yes I got burned out on my last three models and had to really reevaluate my approach to painting at that point because
Mm-hmm.
all the work in 40K honestly just goes into painting, which is different from Gunpla where all your
Yeah.
work goes into building, right? building 40K models is cake compared to Gunpla. Like
The ones I had when I was like 5 or 7, good. There was no paint involved. I was just slapping them
oh
together.
yeah.
That's it. I was satisfied.
Well, at that time they were all sort of a ball joint style where they weren't technically ball
Yep.
joint, but the ends of the limbs were spherical in shape, and the sockets they went into were a receptor for that sphere. And so you just kind of
Mhm.
glued those two pieces together in whatever pose you want. In recent years, 40K models have become snap together, where they're kind of expecting you not to use any glue. I still do because it makes the model look nicer, but
True. Especially if you
especially
want to get crazy with paint. Yeah.
yeah, well, plastic cement is great because it literally melts plastic together. So, and I know Tamiya has their own brand of that, which a lot of people make what we call sprue goo from. Um, so we literally just like empty sprues, we'll cut them up and put them in a bottle of plastic cement like that and mix it together.
Mhm.
So what you get is this consistency of paste that comes out the same color as the model that also melts plastic
Okay.
together. So you can do all kinds of things with that,
Oh.
from gluing models together so they look seamless to sculpting with it.
Uh huh.
Um, so you can get really
Oh, that's
crazy with your kit bashes. And we also have clay. Like
nice.
GW sells a form of clay called green stuff, which is separated into a blue and yellow putty that you mix together to make green, and a lot of
Mhm.
people do sculpting with that. There's a crazy kit basher on YouTube who I follow who took, they came out with some demon Primarch models because the whole thing in 40K is you have traitor legions of Space Marines as well.
Yeah, the chaos
Yeah.
salamander, and it's like what the it's
Well,
a
the
couple of them.
salamanders
Yeah.
are still on the Imperial side, but you have, like, for
Okay.
example, one of the big ones is the World Eaters, who follow
Oh,
Khorne.
okay. Okay.
Right? So they follow Khorne, and their Primarch, Angron, is basically now a full demon now. He's just a big, giant rage monster, right? And so someone did a switch, right?
Full
Let's
Nate
make all
Rage
the
activate.
loyalist, let's make all the loyalist
Uh huh.
Primarchs into demon Primarchs now, right? So a guy bought
Ah,
the
okay.
Khorne model and converted that into a Space Wolves variant because their Primarch, I don't think it's Lehman Russ anymore. Is it still Russ? Yeah, I think it's still Russ. So Russ is like a crazy like Viking guy, right? That's the whole Space Wolves
Okay.
like theme. And they have a gene
Space
flaw
Vikings.
that
Jesus.
turns. They have
Space
like
Vikings.
so they have a flaw in what's called their gene seed, which is like the blueprint for a Space Marine that comes from the Primarch.
Right. Right. Hmm.
They have a gene flaw which some of them turn into what are called wolfen, so like literally werewolves. um, um, and so they still
What?
feel so like yeah. So as part of like a Space Wolves army, you can actually put wolfen in that
Okay.
army, and they're basically just berserker
Okay.
units. Like they're just charge and attack and get into melee units. Um, which is what
That's
the
wild.
Space Wolves like literally specialize at. They're mostly charge and get into melee.
Right. It's just throw me in.
They don't do a lot of shooting.
Okay.
Um, but
They're the
yeah, they're
they're not orcs, but hey, they're on the same type of time.
yeah, they're an assault unit. Where world eaters are literally just all assault. Like they are gas, gas, gas all the way. They barely do any shooting at all. And when I say barely do any shooting, they have units that literally cannot shoot in their army. So you'll feel
You know
things
what
like
trips me out though?
yeah,
Like about what actually trips me out about 40K as far as their concept of what hyperspeed?
yeah.
What the fuck? What is that?
So
What the fuck? Why?
so to
Why?
understand, so I don't want
That's a
to
bunch of trouble. Like
I don't want to lore dump about
what?
40K, but
No,
the
I
gist of
no.
it
I've watched like
yes.
I've watched some vids on it, man.
Yeah.
Like
So the
no,
gist of it
thank you. That's so
is
much.
there's two essentially dimensions in 40K. You have what is called the
Yep.
materium, which is like our universe in material reality, and then you have the
Mm-hmm.
immaterium, or what is commonly referred to as the warp, where all
Yep.
the psychic energies of every being in the universe is kind of mixed up and combined into a bunch of chaos right now, right?
It's a blender.
So
Yeah,
it's
pretty much.
everything
Yeah.
from your most benevolent thoughts like altruism and love and happiness to your deepest and darkest thoughts like murder and genocide and incest and stuff like that. Um, and that all gets mixed together in this subdimension that exists just underneath the fabric of the materium, right?
Mhm.
Well, an event happens. Basically, somebody does a real big fucky wucky, and
Yeah, pretty much.
and what happens is that immaterial dimension starts to leak into the material world, and that affects a whole lot of things. people who like use psychic powers are especially sensitive to this dimension. So some of them literally just become demon portals on the spot, right? They have no control of this, by the way. They just literally become hellholes.
Yep.
And what
Explosion
came to
noise.
being is the birth of what we call now the four chaos gods. So we've got Korn, who's the god of war. We've got Nurgle, god of plagues and diseases. We've got Tzeentch, who is the god of change. And we've got Slanesh, who is the god of hedonism and excess. And the crazy thing about gods like Slanesh is like when we say hedonism in excess, it isn't just all pleasure. It's hedonism in excess in all of its forms. So pain, pleasure, suffering, joy, all of that, taking it to the absolute extreme. Every sensory experience you can have turned up to 1,000,000, right? And we say
Sounds like Hellraiser.
so when we say Korn is the
Yeah.
one that the World Eaters follow, right? So this is a god of
Gotcha.
war and blood, basically, right? War, blood, and skulls. This is kind of thing. So their catchphrase is "Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne," and it's mirrored in a lot of their model sets as well. Like there is a Korn war engine unit that literally
Okay.
is just a giant like half tank, half mech thing that is designed to shoot giant skulls at people. Like that's its whole gimmick.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Okay, gun tank, but okay, cool.
Yeah. And mind you, like when we say giant skulls, like I'm not talking about real human skulls. Like in the warp,
Oh
you have to
no, like
understand that nothing is actually real. So
ridiculously large, cartoony skulls. Yes.
yes, so nothing is actually
Oh
real.
yeah.
So
Mm,
and that's the crazy thing about like Tzeentch armies is like it's all magic based, and the magic can just be whatever you want it to be. Like, but the World Eaters follow him, and so what this Kit Bash guy did is take the World Eaters Primarch Angron, his demon model kit,
okay.
and converted him into a Rust model kit with a bunch of green stuff. So he did like the fur for a werewolf on him, using that green stuff and modeled it
Nice.
in, and then painted it all. So kit bashing gets really, really in depth with 40k.
Yes,
I
it
believe
does.
it can get as in depth with Gunpla. I don't think the people who are
Yes.
just into Gunpla alone are turned on to like using putty and stuff to do modeling. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, actually, no. A lot of
Okay.
people, if you're really getting into the kit bashing of it, and you
Hmm.
want very particular things, nah, putty is absolutely on the table.
Okay.
Um, even the paint techniques itself, you got markers. I've seen
Oh
kit
yeah.
bashes and kits in general just completely painted with markers, airbrush,
Yeah.
paintbrush, anything you want really.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I
it's
actually
like they're very similar hobbies. They share like all the similarities are there.
gotcha. I actually have some Gundam markers
Yeah,
that I use on my 40k models to write scripts on them.
nice.
Because a lot of them have like scrolls and stuff like that. And I just want to sketch in little words on them. Um, but beyond
Add your
that,
own little flair on it. Yeah.
yeah. So right now I'm looking at you had mentioned the RX-78 2 high grade as an entry point for this. So I just want to give the
Yeah,
audience
they
some.
even yeah.
Well, I just want to give the audience a reference point here. So I found this on a site called Hobby Link Japan already.
Ah,
Um,
good site, good site.
yeah. So it's a 1/144th scale high grade RX-72 Gundam for $8.25. Right?
That sounds about right for an SD.
And well, this isn't even SD. This is
Oh,
full size.
that's a full size. That's what I'm saying. That's actually pretty neat.
Yeah. So it's
Hmm.
144 scale, so it's a tiny model. But and what's great about this kit is like people would think like, okay, what am I getting with an $8.25 kit, right? Like this is basically an
A
action
whole
figure
lot.
I'm putting together, right? Well, that's not entirely true. It's not really an action figure you're putting together because you get options,
Exactly.
right? So you get the bazooka, you get the shield, you get
Hmm.
two swords, you get
Yep.
5 different hands, and you get the gun as well, right? So you get all that, and then you can mount these in different places. So, like for example, you can do a configuration
Hmm.
that's shield gun with the bazooka and the carrier on the back. Um,
Exactly.
you can do a kit that's 2 laser swords on the back,
Speaking
right?
of which, speaking of which, yeah, like this, for example, this thing, you're not. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but this thing
Yeah.
has an entire holding system for the bazooka. Like
Okay.
the accessories for the accessories and weapons, just to hold them and put them in places, is They get
Yeah.
creative. They're like the atypical places for sidearms and stuff, but
Yep.
just to see that minute detail
Oh yeah. And I think
adds
this
to it.
I think this kit has full articulation everywhere except the waist, right? The waist and the wrist,
Yep.
because the hands are static, so you can like turn them, but you can't like
Yep.
angle them in or
Open and
out.
close them. Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but the legs and arms are fully articulated. The head is posable. So for like $8.25, you're still getting a really good model kit, right? Um,
Definitely.
so like that's a great entry point for any hobby. Honestly, I wish 40K had that option.
That would that would get so many people into it. Honestly,
Like if you told
it's
me you were gonna
like,
pay eight
what do
bucks
you have
for
to
something
lose?
40K, like I would give you like an model. Give you like an Space Marine.
Pretty much. You get a
um,
whole lot with $8. Let's go.
gotcha.
But
So,
yes, just I had a thought and it ran from me. But actually, no.
mhm.
You also have to take in consideration with pricing scalpers.
Scalpers
There'll be a
are.
kit you'll find. Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
get
the
it.
unfortunate side of it too. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like, guys, well, not even at the same time. There's really no justification for it. Like, guys, come on,
Mhm.
really, you're jacking the price up just because it's XYZ.
Yeah. Well,
Come on.
that's true of multiple hobbies. I know a lot of people have gotten used to like game
Yeah.
console scalping. Um, but it happens in the modeling world too.
Oh
40K,
yeah.
for example, when they did these Primarch releases. So the Primarch that I got, Lionel Johnson, for my army.
Uh
Um,
huh.
originally, what GW did was come out with a pre-order kit that was him with an adjutant of Space Marines, who were like his guards, right?
Okay.
That sold out really, really fast, and then immediately on launch day, those kits started to go up on eBay for hundreds of dollars, right?
Sounds about right.
So people
Yeah.
were scalping the hell out of them. And then they just came out with
Oh
him
yeah.
by himself and just started selling that through their regular distributors. um,
Wow.
and so I was able to get him for a decent price, right? Um,
That's good.
and I
Yeah.
imagine the same thing happens with Gunpla, where it's like, so they, like Bandai announces like, hey, we're coming out with this kit. Like, let's say it's a perfect
Mhm.
grade kit of a really, really popular mech, right? And we're talking like
Yep.
really popular, like not in past series. We're talking really popular current series airing on TV mech, right?
Me try to think of one. Honestly, yeah.
So
It'd probably be the Ariel. No, actually, that Seed movie, the Gundam Destiny. Well, the
yeah,
Gundam Seed movie came out recently, so yeah, that would be
yeah,
your most recent. Yeah.
exactly. So we take it from
Ah,
there, and then we get into the fact that it's like, okay, really popular, limited release, perfect grade, current series Gundam,
yep.
right? And you can imagine people are just putting in orders by the dozen so they can scalp them later, right?
Key Bandai. I'm looking at you again, guys.
Yeah,
That
that's also one thing that
is. mm.
that just sucks in the modeling world. Is when anything is limited release, that always sucks. Because someone's
Yeah,
always gonna
it is
miss
what it is
out,
at the end of the day. Oh yeah.
right? Like even if you have the money, someone's gonna miss out on that kit. um,
Limited runs are a thing in this world too. So
yeah, Gundam. I will say that Bandai is more generous with their remoldings of kits. So they will take a
yeah,
kit
definitely,
and
definitely.
then put it back. Like this one I mentioned, the $8.25 kit is a revive kit for this. So this is a complete remold of RX-78 too. Um,
Yep. And all that means is pretty much the pieces and the runners are more congruent with each other and they just fit better.
yeah,
That's all.
but that's great
The quality of plastic. Yeah.
because not only will they come out with the same model, but they'll actually redesign the way it's set up in a sprue, so that way it's just
Mhm.
looks better as a final product. Um,
Yep.
and it's great that they actually take the time to do that design work. Games Workshop is like, we don't fucking care.
Here you go. Buy it anyway. Get out of
like
my face.
like
Ah.
you'll
Write
look
that
at some
check.
parts and you're like, why does the bolter need to be two separate pieces? It is the tiniest thing on this model, and Games Workshop is like,
No, it's
because we
not.
fucking can. Like,
Buy it. Get out of my face. You need this.
exactly. It's so fucking weird that
Oh
some
man.
parts are the way they are. Like, why are
Yeah.
Space Marine's arms separated from the shoulder pod? It's like, oh, so if you buy like a separate sprue, you can put like a different modeled shoulder pod on. It's like, I get that, but you could just make that separate model part on its own sprue, and I could just glue it to the pauldron itself.
I'm gonna tell you this though,
hmm
you have it a lot easier with constructing
I will say
because
we
of the
definitely do.
simple. Oh my goodness. Oof.
Yeah,
Why are there literally 25 parts to a kneecap joint?
yeah.
And they're so tiny. Well, your real grades, they get ridiculously tiny and very fragile.
Oh, I know.
But just so I can,
Bandai sometimes gets very close to like we're not gonna like make like a buildable model of this mech. We're gonna go back and take
no,
our concept drawings, and not just the concept drawings of this mech. We're gonna take the concept drawings of the in-world schematics for this mech, and you get to build that
exactly.
shit. like,
Yeah,
like
because to add to that, actually, the master grades and no, it's actually specifically the full metal works.
hmm
Those kits are two separate like construction pieces. You literally have to put together the internal frame by itself, the skeleton essentially,
hmm
and then you're literally slapping the armor on top of it.
Christ Almighty. And
Yes.
that's the thing is I was gonna say like I've seen model kits like that out of Gundam from like just seeing fully assembled kits from tournaments and stuff like that, where it's like people in tournaments will purposely exclude certain armor panels in their mech so they can show what's built underneath, right? And
Yep.
they do that because it usually means that they're actually taking time to paint those parts to be screen accurate and then look weathered on
Yes.
top of that.
Yes.
So
Battle damage here and there. Yep.
yeah, and
That's the cool thing too about the like model kits too.
mm-hmm.
Have you actually seen the You've probably seen the like I guess the horror 40K models.
Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like battle damage to the max. It's hey,
Yeah, there's a lot of Warhammer horror lore out there, and people do make model kits based on that, or I should say they kit bash model kits based on that. Um,
yeah. The fact that those are all kit bashes are just that's amazing to
oh
me.
yeah, it's great. Just pull anything out of a Zinch box, and you kind of have everything you need to make a
Mm,
horror version of your model. Zinch,
gotcha.
Slanesh, and
Yeah,
Gorn boxes are great for that. um, because
like
it's
I've seen what is it, Barbados with horse legs.
yeah,
Instead of what the standard two arms, it maybe had two extra arms slapped on the back of it for whatever reason. And it,
oh yeah. I remember the first time without even knowing it because I was a kid at the time. The first time I kit bashed anything was Bionicles. I had almost the complete
oh,
set of original Bionicles, and then I got this
hmm
idea of like, what if like the whole purpose of Bionicles at the time, because Lego hadn't really turned this into a whole IP they planned on expanding, was that you could mix and
yeah,
match the parts. They actually encourage that in their instruction manuals.
yep,
Um,
exactly. Make them as crazy as you need. If you
so by
want,
the
yeah.
time I had about 3 or 4 sets of that, like I had built all the Bionicles to what the instruction manual said to build them to, right?
All
And
right.
so I had like the fire guy, the leaf guy, I had a bunch of them. And then I took them and said like, okay, what if I was going to build a Bionicle that was a combination of all these? And literally in like 2 nights, I had made like a Centaur version of all the Bionicles mixed together. It was nuts. And I'm
Nice.
talking like not just that, like with their mask in weird places. And then now I think back to that and think of
Yeah.
like, what if this is like a Junji Ito creation I've made, like because the mask are all in different parts of the
Yeah, pretty
body,
much.
so that's like faces on different parts of like a centaur's body. Like just imagine like a really like fucked up greasy like centaur with matted fur with a bunch of faces all
Oh
over it
man.
and like sword hands. Like that's a horror movie
Capper
creature
demon
right
hands.
there. That's like a whole
Capper
SCP.
demon hands and blade.
Yes, that's like a whole
Oh
SCP right there
jeez.
that I've created.
Oh no. Yeah. That shit.
Yes, but
That shit. Oh man.
yeah. So anyway, I wanted to talk about something that kind of touches on the cultural aspect of what Gunpla is, right? Now, when we
Yeah.
talk about like any anime property, of course it's going to be huge in Japan and not so huge in the States. That's just a fact of the matter, right?
Yes.
But what we see a lot in 40K is this big sort of split. I
hmm
will admit that it is like a hobby that's dominated particularly by white men, right? It started in the UK, so that's kind of expected. But as time has gone on,
Mhm.
that's opened up. There are people of color playing 40K. There are women playing 40K, right? They're not always treated the best in that fandom, I'll admit. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering what you see as kind of is there any like diversity now creeping into the Gunpla hobby?
Oh yes. It's been there way before I was there, that's for sure. I feel like
Okay.
the amount of users just by diversity, it's big. Especially because of the anime itself, just because of over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's the target audience is just vast, but I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. If I'm thinking back properly, when I was watching a podcast while I was rewatching words
Mm-hmm.
rewatching Gundam 79, the one that came out in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, yes, their initial goal was to sell toys. At the end of the day, that the original director wasn't for all of that. There were so many disputes, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it made that alone made Gundam itself very popular in America. It
Yeah.
took a while, but it happened. Um, and me personally, well, I believe, especially with Gundam Wing, like we were talking about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
that brought a lot of love for Gundam to the States.
Yeah.
Like a lot of love. That's what blew it up, honestly.
Well, that makes sense. Because I'll admit, like when Toonami came out, I was watching anime before I knew it was anime, right?
Dude, yes.
Like us as kids when we saw Toonami pop up, we're like, all right, this is just like a really cool
Oh, what's
block
this?
of cartoons that all have a strangely similar style to them.
Yeah, yeah,
But I was watching
yeah.
like,
What's going on here?
and I'll admit, like the first thing I fell in love with on Toonami was Sailor Moon. Absolutely loved the shit out of Sailor Moon.
Oh, let me tell you something. I want to say I may have been, oh my god, 12, 10. I don't remember. Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z back to back in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I watched Sailor Moon and then saw Sailor Mars, and I'm like, oh, her power's fire. I like fire. She's a tomboy. I like tomboys. And then when I became an adult, I'm like, oh shit, that explains a lot about me.
You know, I was having this conversation with someone actually about Sailor Moon. Like, your taste in women, you can tell a lot about a person depending on which scout they liked.
That's my taste
Oh,
in woman. It's funny because I was talking to my last guest, and something I've talked to them about. The word slipped out that my therapist is well acquainted with the lesbian within. So, so it's like when I say that Witch of Mercury is like my favorite Gundam, I'm saying that for it for a
being
very
within,
specific reason. Like trust, I wish I was Soletta in that instance because Miorne is like top tier waifu for me right now.
I liked their relationship though. Like, it was very well written. I was like
Oh yeah,
pulling for him like the entire time. Like,
it was
the way they actually met, that kind of set it up, honestly. So I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah, let's hope this pulls through. Yeah.
it was literally that
Oh,
golden retriever and black cat relationship
yeah,
dynamic.
yeah,
Right.
man, so obvious.
And then you had fucking what's his face, the guy with the purple and pink hair. Um,
Purple pink hair. I'm a Gil?
yeah, Gil.
Maybe.
So
Yeah, yeah, that poor
yeah, Gil
child.
Jetter. That's right.
Yo.
And him turning overnight from like the biggest bully to the biggest simp was just that was precious to me because it's like he's so smitten with Soletta and doesn't have a chance in hell of being with her.
Not at all. I'm like, yo, stop.
Yes.
No, that boat's gone, man. Might
Oh
as well
yeah.
already sail in that one.
And then Ellen Saris being like the most like creepy, manipulative jackass in the world. Like he is.
Star clone. Mop
Yes.
mop for my fellow Gundam watchers.
Oh yeah. He's a clone too,
Yeah.
and he's like literally like the nice guy meme on screen.
Yeah.
uh,
Tomino loves his Char clones. It's like,
yeah.
oh, I'm making a. It was like, I want versions of Char in every single Gundam. I don't care what it is. I need it.
Oh yeah. It's and then you got Shanique Zanelli, who is like an actual just fucking war criminal.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Like the whole reason that another riot kicks off on Earth is specifically because of him.
Yeah. And I'm like, come on.
And
I
he
understand
doesn't.
you're playing the political business game here with corporations and whatnot, but really,
This thing is like at the end of it all, he doesn't even try to hide it. He's like, "Yeah, I did it. So fucking what?"
nah. What you gonna do about it? Fight me.
Yes. And then Choo Choo's like, "What? You say
Uh,
fight you? All right."
you said you said roll for initiative. I punch it.
Yes. But no, I love that series so much, and it's great.
Oh man.
I will say it's great that this hobby, from what I've experienced, is growing in the U.S. Still to this day.
Yes.
More and more people are still getting into Gunpla every day, and more people are getting into like the top level Gunpla stuff. So it isn't just
That's
like the same
yes.
old names entering tournaments. It's a lot of newcomers breaking in with new techniques and new styles that are starting to kind of take over what people expect from a tournament level model, right? Um, there are Gunpla from everything from, of course, we've talked about like weathering. People love a good
Mm-hmm.
weathering job or a battle damage job on a model. But then people go crazy with different paint schemes on models, alternate colors.
Exactly.
I've
Yeah.
seen models painted up in graffiti styles before. So that's bringing
The
some of the.
Supreme. Well, I've seen like even though the Supreme RX was a thing, I've seen people
Mhm.
just like do complete stock shoes,
Yeah,
very like complete clothing wear from like Gunpla.
yeah. Well, I've seen
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
from like Gundam with kimonos or yukatas to Gundam
Yep.
with
Pretty much.
to
Yeah.
Gundams done up in hip hop styles.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of different things from the hobby, and it's great that the hobby is branding and expanding out to that. Because if it just stuck to let me build a screen accurate model, like that gets boring really fast, right? Is
Exactly.
like, and then it just becomes a competition of who can build the most screen accurate thing, and it's kind of like, well, there's only one way to do that, and by the time like two people have mastered that, no one else cares anymore because it's just a
Exactly.
competition between those two people forever. um, right? And we've all seen the screen accurate model because it's on the fucking screen while we're watching the show, right?
Exactly. It was right there for you in full animation, like an amazing detail.
So we want to see, and I'll say the same thing leaks over into modeling hobbies like 40K is like people do appreciate it when you paint something in a realistic style, but
Mm-hmm.
what really kicks off at tournaments, like one of the best painted armies ever, is a guy who just invented his own style, right? And it's a style
Yes.
that plays on very ethereal themes and is actually a kit bash of two separate armies mixed together. So
Okay.
yeah.
It's
So
okay.
yeah, what he took. So there's this kind of meme that we have in 40K. So the Tau are still technically the newest army in 40K, even though they came out years ago, right? And the Tau primarily use what are called battle suits in their army. If you look up anything Tau from their smallest like soldier units all the way up to their battle suits and vehicle units, it is very Gundam inspired. As I'll put it that way. um, and so
Didn't they do a
people
collab or something? Or am I
they didn't
misremembering that?
yeah
I can't speak for shit right now. Jesus.
they didn't really collab, but the idea behind the Tau was to take a race that the lore behind them is so by the time the Imperium discovered them, they were extremely primitive race, and then
Okay.
sometime later, like in a very short amount of years considered in the 40K universe, you have to take it in the context of this is not a series about like a specific like set period of time. This is a series about an entire
Right.
millennium, now almost 2 millenniums ongoing. So this is 2,000 years worth of lore, and so stories in this universe spanned hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. So by the
Yep.
time they
Yep.
check back in on the Tau, like an extremely short period of time, they have evolved into
Mhm.
an extremely advanced race, right? That's using tech
Ah.
that's using technology the Imperium thought wasn't possible. um,
Shit. Okay.
and a lot of people hated playing against them because they were a cheese army when they came out. Like they were extremely overpowered. And their whole thing is outranging everybody and just shooting them to death because they like their base weapons are railguns essentially.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah, point,
So
click,
so
boom. That's
yes, their
that's
entire
very
thing is
fair.
like keep the battle in the shooting phase as much as possible. Never let it go to melee if you can help it, unless you're playing Farsight
Right.
Enclaves, which is their one spin-off, and then it's like definitely getting a melee range because Farsight's a fucking beast. Um, but the way they set them up is like, okay, there's extremes of race, so they have a lot of plasma based stuff. They have plasma shields
Mhm.
and drones and big vehicles. They have the single biggest vehicle in the entire 40k model range. It's called the Manta,
Yeah.
and it's almost impossible to field on tabletop. And I'll say it's so big that the idea is you build this and it comes with little soldier guys to put inside of the seats in the model.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
No,
it's yeah. Um, and it's
Lego
got
vibes, but 40K. Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
When I say it's got rail kits that dominate the next biggest thing in 40k, like then it starts to make sense of why this thing is so OP. Um, it's what we consider Titan grade. So the Imperial
Okay.
Man has these things called Titans, which are like the biggest mechs of all time in 40k. And when you get to what's called considered an Imperial class Titan, you're talking about a
Uh-huh.
Titan that literally has a cathedral built on top of it. And 40k
I've
cathedrals are
seen
not
those
like
before. I know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
40k cathedrals are not like cathedrals as we conceptualize them. 40k cathedrals are sometimes the size of cities. So
The
you
walking monoliths in Elden Ring, practically, for
yeah,
visualization.
they
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
They very big.
Oh, yeah.
So like you have a flying machine that like rivals that as far as power is concerned, and have rail cannons that can strip away the shields on these things.
Yes.
And then once the shields are stripped away, this thing is doing like mortal wounds to it. So these are wounds that the model cannot recover from with any amount of repair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you inflict something
Huh.
called a mortal wound in 40k, it's a wound that cannot be recovered. So
I wonder, as new as it is, they do
mhm.
have like a Gundam version of 40K in a way as far as the tabletop. I wonder if that's the same for that.
Yeah, I believe
Because
they
I
do
believe there's
have
like
it.
special rules you can use like miniature kits and like actual Gunpla
Yeah,
or
they do
something like that.
have a Gundam tabletop game. I'm not sure what it's actually called.
Yeah, same. I was like a breath in the wind type of thing. Came and went.
Okay, there was something called Mech Stellar from a while ago
Okay.
that combined a lot of different. It mostly had Gundam in it. I think it combined some other models as well, and these models were essentially they're not necessarily 40k scale, I would say, because we're talking about
Mhm.
like 32 to 50 millimeter bases, and these don't have bases. They're more like what you would consider like a small figurine. Um,
Okay.
and they did fight on tabletop. I can see like full tabletop setups with terrain and everything.
Mhm.
Most of this is city style terrain, so it's buildings and stuff that can be used for cover. Um, there is something called Mobile Suit Gundam Skirmish as well, and they played at 1/144 scale. Um,
That may be the one I'm thinking of.
yeah, and that 1/140 scale is like the small figurine scale. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a tabletop version of this, and I would actually like to see something like that come like officially from Bandai if they ever got reason to invest in that. I know their big thing right
Right.
now is Gundam video games, and they've kind of abandoned the last big Gundam video game because that was basically Overwatch with Gundams, and
Oh
people
Lord. Yeah.
people
Well,
played it.
Gundam Breaker 4 is coming out soon.
Yeah, the weird thing about that is people played it, people liked it, right? But
Yes.
then Bandai was like, well, not enough people are playing it, and they're not giving us enough money, so we're not going to invest in it anymore.
Exactly.
Which
And that was the exact reason too.
it happens with so many
Oh
Japanese game
man.
companies. It's weird. Like Square Enix has been on this tip for a long time, where they release a game and then they're like, oh,
Mhm.
it's not making us money, so we're not going to support it or release any DLC for it. Um,
Yep.
like Final Fantasy 14 is their cash cow right now.
Exactly. They're not gonna no, they're gonna keep pumping as much content
and
and everything and fixes and as they need to.
Oh yeah. Well, they've tried to monetize a lot of other games, and it's just not working for them. they do that thing that Ubisoft does now, where it's marketplace first, game second. So, um,
I don't even want to talk about Ubisoft.
oh yeah,
Like, I'm like, love to hate them at this point, you know?
yeah. It's like, yes, I do love the Assassin's Creed series. Also, fuck Ubisoft.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything that I wanted to cover during this stream.
Yeah.
And I do thank you for joining me. This was an interesting topic to talk about, really, because this is something that I've always kind of flirted with, but never really dove into, right?
You'd have so much fun, honestly.
I think
Like,
I think I definitely would. It's mechs. I love mechs. If more Armored Core model kits came out, I'd be drowning in Armored Core sprues.
actually, there's a workaround for that.
Really?
It's pure kit bashing. I think they're called 30-minute missions.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the polycaps and whatnot, and they're interchangeable. You can mix regular Gunpla pieces with those things. You can make
Mm-hmm.
anything you want almost.
Gotcha. So there actually are some model kits coming out specifically for Fires of Rubicon, which is Armored Core 6.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
they've got what looks like right now a base Nightfall model for $18. And Nightfall is the one that there's this whole thing with Raven across the Armored Core series. Raven is the original mercenary title you were given back in the original gen of Armored Core. You were
Okay.
always referred to as a Raven as some part of group. It was either Raven's Next or Global Cortex. And so Raven's a really important name. So that's the name you steal when you first land on this planet Rubicon in Armored Core 6. But there's an actual
Okay.
Raven who shows up later, and you have to fight him in a mission. And
Oh.
he's using a mech that's very similar to yours with some obvious upgrades. Now, by the time you fight him,
Right.
you've changed your mech completely. But it's like what your starter mech is with some upgrades. And that's to prove to you basically the starter mech can be used effectively and can whoop your ass if you're not careful.
I am you, but better. Let's
Yes.
go. Yes.
But it looks like he also comes with a few different weapons as well. So that's interesting. He comes with things like the laser dagger, some pulse missiles. He comes with a laser rifle. So all very cool. And it even tells you
Just
what
a
the
side
set
note too.
content is. Yeah, so this
What
is
if
actually...
I told you
Oh, this is a
you
30-minute
could
mission
actually put
series.
together Evangelion figures in Gunpla style?
Oh, yeah. I think I do remember something
Yeah.
like that. But this kit is actually This is actually part of the 30-minute mission series. So, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think
Those are
that's...
very I forgot the story with those. I believe it was either I think art designers from the original anime or someone associated with Gundam
Mm-hmm.
actually went to the designers and made the separate factions personally based off of other known series.
Yeah, and that makes sense because there was a time when in Armored Core games and lore, you would have most of it was about corporate wars, right? So it's like the Earth is
Yeah.
decimated, corporates have taken over, and especially in Armored Core 3, which was my favorite game.
Mhm.
You kind of have this system where you can choose which corporations to take jobs from, and that shifts their alignment. And basically, at the end of the game, whatever alignment that you've chosen is the corporation that kind of survives the
That's you
worst of what
essentially.
you're going to go on to do.
I see.
The thing about
Oh,
Armored Core you have to
dang.
understand is there are no winners. Um, there's
Typical
base
from soft game.
At the
No one has
very
a good time.
least, you were never a winner in Armored Core. I'll put it that way. You do complete the
What?
story, you do have the most
Player
impact on the
character.
events
No.
of the world, but you were definitely not the winner.
Yeah. Hell no.
um,
You're gonna have a bad time too. No. You're especially
yes.
gonna have a bad time.
So it's crazy. But they do have some model kits available for pre-order. They have a guy named Rusty's Armored Core, which is a Schneider frame. He has an AC that he calls Blue Haze. You've got the Nightfall Raven Armored Core as well. I think those are the only two out right now. But those are very cool kits, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I think the
I'm
Raven
gonna have
one
to look
does
them.
come with
I
his
didn't know those were a thing. Definitely have to look those up.
yeah. I believe the Raven kit does come with his original weapon set as well. So you get the 6-pod blast missiles, a Songbird grenade launcher, and his rifle. and then I think he's got a pulse blade on his left arm. So yeah, you get all that stuff. Great. That's just me being an AC fanboy. I
Oh
plan
no,
on
no.
I plan on doing a whole like I'm hoping that I get the spot, but I'm planning on doing like a whole panel on Armored Core and it's in the way that Dark Souls was influenced by it at BlurredCon next year.
Ooh, okay.
So if you come to BlurredCon, you can check in on that.
I need to make myself go to a convention, honestly. Like,
Well, I'm gonna
I
tell you, I'll tell you this from
I
experience,
work
right?
so much. Jeez, it's like
I understand. So
sucks.
what happened is, so our mutual friend James,
Yeah.
told me that week. He's like, he's like, buy tickets for BlurCon in his usual fashion. He doesn't tell me like what the
Yeah.
plan is. He's like, go ahead and buy tickets. I'm like, wait a minute,
We'll
what?
make
Like,
it up.
where are we
Make it up as we go.
staying? When are we going? Like, what's the
Don't worry about it. It's
plan,
fine.
dude?
It's fine. No, let's just get us tickets for BlurredCon. It's fine. I
He
got
finally
it.
he finally did answer some of my questions, so at least I wasn't completely in the dark. So I literally packed up my 3-day go bag and went to BlurCon. And when I say that the experience there was,
3-day go bag.
yeah, so I packed up a 3-day assault pack, like with clothes and
Oh
stuff.
man.
Went down to BlurCon. When I say it was the best convention I went to, it was the best convention I went to because the vibe at BlurCon is completely different from every other convention you've been to, because it's just us, right? So you go from,
Yeah, I'm missing out.
and I'll put it for you in like context that we all can understand from this side of the aisle. It smells good.
Good, great. Yeah. 'Cause, we all know about that horrid con funk. That's not the
Yes.
case at BlurredCon.
No. There was not a
Here's like
single
smelling all
moment of confunk at
nice and
BlurredCon.
fresh.
Absolutely.
Great
It's
to hear
it's
it.
great, and it's kind of like a big 2-day party at that. So
Kind of like MagFest. That's fine.
yeah, but all right. Well, um, before we do wrap it up, is there anything else you want to say to the audience? Anything else you want to put out there concerning your hobby or anything going on?
Yeah. The most important thing to remember, go at a pace that is the best for you. Like motivation and to have it in general to actually sit, crack that box open and start and get to work. You gotta have it.
Gotcha.
But at the end of the day, even with that said, have fun with this stuff. Like
Gotcha.
let your imagination take you where you want it to go. You know?
Awesome. That is a very good message for people. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to wrap up for tonight. I thank you again for joining me for this. This was a really interesting discussion on the hobby.
I
And
gotta thank you for inviting me. I appreciate you. Like
yeah.
this was cool. Like
Well,
I've been itching to do something like in general close to this,
oh yeah,
realm for a little bit. So I appreciate you.
absolutely. This is becoming my bread and butter stream over time.
Hmm.
I'm trying to line up multiple guests for this kind of thing. Of course, I have return guests, so I'll ask you back on for something eventually.
Gotcha.
Um, but my goal really,
I might have something built by then. I don't know.
yeah, the true goal of every stream is to make it as fun as possible for whoever I have on. Right? I don't want you to come here and
Oh
suffer
yeah.
through it. So I'm glad.
No. I was like, my knowledge of 40K is so casual. I'm like, I'm absolutely fine learning some stuff about it. I don't even care. No.
Yes. Well, I'm glad I was able to accomplish that goal tonight. But for anyone who is watching, anyone who will watching, we thank you for joining us. As always, you can follow us on all the social media channels. You can find me at a little teapot89 on Instagram. You can find Spacetime Taco pretty much everywhere. Anubis, where can they find you?
I'm just gonna say Twitch right now, but I need to get
Twitch.
my ass in gear and start streaming again. But
Okay.
that's literally the only place, unless you do want to hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. I don't know.
All right. Well,
Whatever we're using is social media.
gotcha. Well, you can find him at the tag he has below his name in the stream right now, or below his face in the stream right now. Find him there on Instagram and all the other social media channels, honestly.
Yeah,
Twitch
pretty
and
much.
wherever
I'm
else he
floating
may
around
be.
on like X more days. I want to start using X and Reddit more, if anything.
Gotcha. Well, throw him some likes, throw him some follows, throw him some subscriptions, whatever you may do. Give him some love from our community to his. Um, And everybody,
Thanks,
honestly,
guys.
yep, have a good night, and we'll catch you next time.
Take it easy.